Yes people, welcome back to another video with CMDAV, and I got another banger, another entering video. We're going to be doing Paul today. Let's get into the vid. We first see Paul with Bolton in the middle of a circle surrounded by kids looking like they're ready to beef. Bolton is telling him that he can get the first bang for free. Bolton's cocky and says Paul needs to do better than his attempts already. Paul's getting pushed around like a ragdoll. He finally lands a left hand on Bolton and Bolton says that's more like it. They start scrapping and Paul gets beat differently. The fight gets broken up when there's a call out for the teachers coming. In the changing room, the same group of guys are there watching Bolton push Paul into the corner. Bolton's asking whether Paul's going to do it and Paul says yeah. Everyone laughs at him and Bolton says he doesn't think he could. As a viewer, you're just thinking, can he do what? Paul gets angry and says come on, and then he says he can take anything. Paul says come at him with a chair. Bro's moving mad. Bolton grabs the chair from Paul, puts it down, pushes Paul into the corner and says shut up. He then takes him into the shower and dashes him to the floor. In Jasmine's form class, Paul's caught reading a magazine. He asks for it back and Jasmine says at the end of the day. She then tells him it's not appropriate to bring things like that into school because it was graphic and violent. There's a common theme with these guys loving to be in the changing room. Paul is still begging for Bolton to give his best shot. Bolton tells him to relax, but peer pressure gets to him. He gives Paul one punch in the belly and it was curtains. Bolton says there'll be no timeouts tonight. He says Paul will get his ass kicked and he needs a plan. Paul, still in pain, runs into Eddie who asks if he's alright. He takes him to the canteen and asks who did it to him. Paul doesn't say anything, but Eddie just leaves and tells him to wait. After some time, Bolton tells Eddie about Paul's uncle being a psycho, beating Paul up and locking him in cupboards. Eddie asks Paul about this and he says that his uncle's never laid a finger on him. Eddie doesn't believe him and says Bolton didn't make it all up because he doesn't have the brain capacity for it. Paul says he wanted to join the fight club, so he made up lies, but Paul is quick with the lies though. In the canteen, Paul steals a big boy knife. He goes home early to sit down and wait for his uncle with the knife in his hand. Paul's uncle gets back home. He sees Paul's jacket and he says he knows he's here. He switches and looks for Paul whilst getting angrier. He grabs a metal pipe from the Hoover and is looking to do some damage to Paul. Before he gets to the front room where Paul's waiting, Eddie and Jack knock on the door. They speak to Paul's uncle asking for Paul. He tries to say Paul's not there, but they say that they know he's there. Paul's uncle starts to move a bit agitated, saying that whatever Paul's saying is not true. This leads to a scuffle between Jack and Paul's uncle, where Paul's uncle drops to the floor. Jack goes into the main room to see Paul standing there with the stolen knife in his hand. Eddie tells Jack he'll handle it. Eddie comforts Paul and tells him he's not in trouble. Paul hasn't spoken for a minute, but he says he doesn't want to end up like his mum and he had to make it stop. Eddie says it's not Paul's job, it's actually his job instead, and he finally gets the knife away from Paul. Eddie tells Paul there's so much help he can get. He goes on to say that if Bolton and Seddon hadn't told him about the uncle and the knife respectively, it would have been a crime scene. Near the end of the episode, Eddie takes Paul to a youth centre where they teach martial arts for kids from negative violent backgrounds. This is so Paul can convert his anger into some discipline whilst also learning how to defend himself. That is the end of the video. Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a comment on whether you would have done the same as Bolton and not said anything about Paul's situation because he left it as a secret. Stay safe people. Peace.